Uh-oh. Jake threw the beloved pizza tower down the pit. He's talking about everyone's favorite 2023 side-scroller on the same show where he said he likes to analyze bad games. Is he going to reveal that our favorite Wario Land clone was an overrated turd all along? Was my reverence for this game propped up merely by my desire to conform to the tastes of my social circle? Were my parents secretly bribing my boss to give me all those promotions?
Don't worry, I didn't chuck Pizza Tower down the pit to expose it as a secret bad game. If you've been paying attention to my channel lately, you don't need to ask if I like Pizza Tower. I know Pizza Tower's good, you know Pizza Tower's good, and even the ghost of Roger Ebert knows that Pizza Tower's good. So if we're all on the same page about that, why am I talking about Pizza Tower on this show? Well, to answer that question, allow me to direct your attention to the Mach Run mechanic. For those of you unfortunate wretches who've never played it, Pizza Tower has a run button that lets you go fast. But unlike the running in, say, Super Meat Boy, Pizza Tower's Mach Run mechanic doesn't just speed you up. It also changes what almost all the buttons do, as if you're playing a completely different game. And Tour de Pizza did an excellent job getting me addicted to that game. Every time I play a Pizza Tower level, I get a fierce urge to figure out the smoothest possible way to get through it in one glorious unbroken charge, and to practice it over and over until I can do it with no slip-ups or faceplants along the way. Which is weird, because I'm usually not the sort of person who cares about speedrunning or getting a perfect score in video games. My reaction to hearing that someone played the first level of Doom over 50,000 times just to beat a speedrunning record set in 1998 was not, wow, what an impressive display of dedication and mastery. It was, wow, imagine how many other games he could have beaten if he wasn't using all that time to break that record instead. Normally, I like to believe I left my obsessive perfectionism behind at school where it belongs. And yet, somehow, Pizza Tower managed to awaken the perfectionist in me, and he won't be put back to sleep with anything less than a flawless sprint from the starting gate to the end of lap 2. Despite my best psychic defenses, this game successfully brainwashed me into believing that the path to Nirvana is traversed with an unerring dash through both laps of Deep Dish 9. In fact, it's so good at addicting me to Mach Running that, ironically, I actually somewhat resent all the game's creative Wario Land transformations, because despite how much personality and variety they add, none of them put me under the same spell that running as regular Peppino does. So instead of reviewing the whole game, this video is going to be my attempt to reverse engineer how Pizza Tower converted me into an ardent follower of the Holy Church of the Perfect Mach Run. From the very first level, Pizza Tower made it clear that it wants me to run, not walk. It began by teaching me not to worry too much about running into bad guys and pointy things, because even if they can hurt me, none of them can kill me. They may slow me down, but they can't stop me. Then, the game taught me to worry a whole lot about getting caught by Pizza Face, because when he does, he shoves a big old nasty game over screen in my face and dumps me all the way back at the starting gate. And in most levels, that is the only way you can die. So Pizza Tower taught me to ignore the consequences of going too fast and dread the consequences of going too slow. By undermining my fear of crashing and overmining my fear of getting caught, this game made me understand that I have to make my delivery in 90 seconds or less, or Pizza Face gets my life for free. And so I ran, and when I did, I found myself crashing and tripping over every wall, banana peel, and exposed electrical outlet on the way to Pillar John. I couldn't make it through a single screen without slamming my face into some FDA-forsaken thing. And why was that? Obviously, part of the reason is that going fast means less time to react to everything. But another cause of my clumsiness is that Mach Running has weird, unintuitive controls and maneuvering quirks. For example, when you're running in midair, you can throw yourself straight down just like you can when you're not running. But instead of doing that by just pressing the down button like you'd think, to do the Mach Run version, you press down to go into a dive first, and then you press jump to go down. And another example, when you reach a wall, instead of smacking into it, you can run up it instead. Now how do you suppose you go about doing that? By pressing the up button? Nope. You do it by pressing jump because Peppino will automatically scale walls while running, but only if he's in the air. The run moveset is full of weird control quirks like this, and the stumbles along the path to getting the hang of them littered my skull with microfractures. Pizza Tower never kicked me back to the hub world for these blunders, but the humiliating animations and irritating snatching of control away that came with them sent a clear message to the dopamine emitters in my structurally compromised skull that I would be having much more fun if I managed to get past more vats of hot sauce without setting my pants on fire. Even if slamming my face into walls at Mach 4 brought no greater practical problem than half a second of paralysis, the ferocious quaking of the screen and Peppino's ludicrously stunned expression rubbed salt into my shameful, self-inflicted wounds. Sometimes, even the level design got in a few of its own spoonfuls by springing these traps that kicked me when I was down after crashing into a wall. But all that humiliation led to much greater satisfaction when I learned how to race through a room without stumbling. Flawlessly charging through all of the tight turns and sinister hazards was made all the more gratifying by the memories of clumsily crashing into everything half an hour ago, and the ever-present risk of a single screw-up leading to immediate humiliation and irritation kept it from getting old. Once I was no longer putting microfractures in it, my skull was structurally sound enough to hold all the dopamine. When I finally reached the point when I was averting whoopsies more often than I wasn't, I realized that the awkward run moveset wasn't as restrictive or difficult to master as it seemed. Witnessing how long it takes Peppino to switch directions and finding out that you can't stop running in midair gave me the impression that Mach Running was pretty inflexible. But after I got the hang of it, I discovered that running actually gives you more options for moving than walking, especially for going up. And after getting used to the awkward control scheme, I also discovered that the moveset is not only flexible, but also pretty forgiving. Nothing in the Mach Run moveset requires precise timing. For example, to run up walls, you don't need to press the jump button at the exact moment you hit them like you're parrying an enemy. All you need to do is be in the air. So you usually have plenty of time to press the button before hitting a wall. And another example, when you're attempting a super jump, you don't have to press up at the exact moment you hit the spot you want to jump from, because you can adjust your position before you let go. After getting the hang of the running mechanics, I realized that precise timing can still help if you're trying to speedrun, but it's not as important as I thought it was. And not only is the timing of the run moveset forgiving, but it also simplifies navigating levels because you no longer have to worry about running into bad guys or metal crates. At Mach 3, you'll just blast right through them like they're not even there. Even though you're not invincible, the bad guys are too terrified to attack you if you're going faster than Mach 2, and hitting them blasts them off the screen without even slowing you down. The only way enemies can bother you after Mach 2 is by denying you points when you don't run into them. That's right, Mach 3 nerfs enemies so hard that it turns them into collectibles. After I discovered how easy and useful Mach Running can be, I now suspect that Pizza Tower may have deliberately given it weird controls and stricter movement rules to make it seem harder to master than it really is. Maybe this trickery's fooling my subconscious into feeling cooler than I should for getting the hang of it, and since being aware of the trickery doesn't seem to be stopping it from fooling my feelings, I'm just fine with that. So far, I've mostly just talked about how Pizza Tower's game mechanics made me obsessed with Mach Running, but I don't think the game mechanics are all there is to it. Because I think another big part of how PT compels me to get the P with my trigger finger resolutely on the RT. Stop it! I think a big part of why I feel like the High King of expedient pizza delivery whenever I exceed Mach 2 can be credited to the animation and sound effects. Most of the time you're playing, Peppino looks like he's about to have an anxiety attack. His body language gives the impression that he's in over his head and he'll collapse into the fetal position at the first sign of resistance. But when he hits Mach 3, he looks like he's ready to step into a boxing ring with an incoming ICBM, and he makes a sound like an electric violin set to 11. The contrast between his regular body language and his Mach 3 body language teaches you that when you're at Mach 3,
the world is your kitchen, and all who dwell within it are your ingredients.
That lesson only gets reinforced further when you see how the bad guys react to an enraged Peppino hurtling their way. But if you think Mach 3 is a power trip, just wait until you reach Mach 4 and you see Peppino transform into some kind of
manic demigod of chaos
that makes fighter jet sounds. Every aspect of Pizza Tower's top-tier animation and sound effects works together to give you the feeling that
God prays to you when you're over Mach 2.
And you don't just feel powerful when you run, you feel really skilled too. Every time I successfully charge my way through part of a level, I get the same feeling I get from watching a terminal montage cartoon. You know, those videos on YouTube where the player character of some Nintendo game abruptly steamrolls one challenge after another with nothing but comedic beats in between? Well, just like those cartoons, once you're at Mach 3, Pizza Tower lets you blast through every gay-ben-damned thing in your path with no loss of momentum. And as I mentioned before, in opposition to any respectable predictive model of physics, the Mach Run moveset gives you plenty of ways to abruptly change direction without slowing you down. Some of them even come with little pauses that take up the role of those comedic beats I mentioned earlier. It all comes together to let you personally experience that terminal montage brand of hilariously over-the-top mastery firsthand. And I'm extremely impressed that Pizza Tower, a chaotic, interactive, dynamic video game, managed to make me feel the same way I felt watching a rigidly timed, carefully crafted, non-interactive animation. Of course, the issue with reaching that level of mastery is that it takes a lot of practice. Your pristine rampage through John Gutter won't stay so pristine if you don't remember to jump before this wall. And if you want to make sure you don't forget next time, you've got to practice it over and over again. But that's no big deal. If you smack into this wall, you can go back to the last room and do it over again, and again, and again, and again, until the right time to jump is hammered into your head. Same with these walls here. You can practice not crashing into these walls as much as you want. But what about slipping over this banana peel? You probably want to practice not doing that too, right? But unlike these walls, if you run into this banana peel, it gets knocked off the screen and doesn't come back. How are you supposed to practice jumping over it now? Well, the only way to bring the banana peel back is to restart the entire level. So if you want to practice jumping over it again and again, you need to spend over a minute getting back to this point between each rep. There are plenty of examples throughout the game where a minute or two from the start, clumsily clearing part of a level prevents you from going back and experimenting or practicing ways to get through it more gracefully. And that's why I'm extremely grateful for the speedrun practice mod for adding save states. This mod has probably cut out hours of time spent just getting back to the hard parts and has made my Mach Run addiction much easier to manage. Before I found out about this mod, I was editing levels in the Undertale mod tool just to make them start later so I could practice the hard parts faster. This mod is going to make it much less likely I'll fall behind on my mortgage payments after Pizza Tower practice sessions steal too much time away from my work. If you find yourself afflicted with the same Mach mania that got me, I can't recommend it enough. Discovering the speedrun practice mod got me thinking about other features I'd like to see in Pizza Tower, so I'm going to finish this video talking about those.
Coveted Feature 1. Automatically recorded replays.
Pizza Tower is not the only game that brings out the obsessive perfectionist in me. Another game that does that, or should I say, the only other game that does that, is Dust Force. And one of my favorite things about Dust Force is that it automatically records a replay every time you beat a level and saves your fastest and highest scoring runs. Watching yourself absolutely destroying a level is almost as much fun as actually doing it, and the little imperfections in your performance goad you into trying to do it even better the next time. I really wish Pizza Tower had a system like this, especially if it gave you the option to save specific runs alongside the automatic recordings. Now, you might be asking, well, why don't you just record your runs with OBS? Well, that's actually something I'm already doing, and clearly something I already had to do to make this video, you hypothetical dumbass. But perhaps the much less stupid question from my hypothetical audience I should have fielded is, if you're already recording footage with OBS, why do you need an in-game replay system as well? There's two reasons. The first is hard drive space. Recordings of gameplay footage can get awfully big because they need to record all 8 bits of all 3 color values of all 1,920 pixels on all 1,080 lines on all 60 images that appear on screen every second. Computers have clever ways to simplify video files to make them smaller, but there's only so much simplifying you can do before they start becoming unwatchable. On the other hand, in-engine replays only need to record a few things 60 times a second, like the player's position, what button they're pressing, the position and state of all the enemies, and all the pickups in the level. Unless we're talking about a room in Skyrim that has 2,000 physics-enabled cheese wheels in it, game replays usually take up a lot less space than video files, especially in simple side-scrollers like Dust Force and Pizza Tower. The other reason I'd rather record my best runs as in-engine replays is that the game could do that automatically, and I wouldn't have to either set up everything myself or risk missing recording something cool I did. In Dust Force, I never have to worry if anything didn't get recorded, because it's all recorded automatically, and it would be great if Pizza Tower did that too.
Coveted Feature 2. A menu-based level select.
Coincidentally, just like Pizza Tower, Dust Force also features a playable hub level that gives you access to all the other levels. But it also has these tomes close to where you start the game that give you access to all the levels from menus instead. I wish Pizza Tower would steal this idea. Having to make my way through the hub worlds to get to all the levels is nowhere near as big a hemorrhoid as having to restart entire levels just to practice certain parts. But I still wish I didn't have to charge through all 5 hub worlds and risk finally manslaughtering Snotty every time I feel like practicing war. I did find a mod that's supposed to add a level select screen, but at the time I made this video, it seems to have been broken by the noise update, and on top of that, it can't be installed with other mods. Since the save state mod is much more important to me, I wouldn't be able to use it anyway. So until someone finds a way to add a level select screen without conflicting with my beloved save state mod, the best way for me to reach levels without putting Snotty's life on the line is to use the debug menu to teleport myself to the respective hub world.
Coveted Feature 3. A link to the J-Guys Patreon page.
Alright, that's all I have to say about Mach Running, so let's review.
Pizza Tower's Mach Run is served fresh with extra helpings of consequences for going too slow, is low in consequences for going too fast, is garnished with the artificially intimidating prospect of mastery, and is marinated in empowering animation and sound effects. For additional setup, you may also enable save states. The Mach Run is not served with an adequate helping of in-game replay recording or level selects.
And for dessert, let's end this video with the closest I've ever come to performing a perfect run of war.